Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to show you 5 signs that tells you not to buy a used car that you're looking at. Now, yes, if you've been watching me anytime, you know I'm a big proponent of buying used cars because you can save a whole bunch of money. Numero uno is check the tailpipe with the car running. You don't want to see smoke coming out. Your car's exhaust should be perfectly clear, meaning that the engine's running fine. Now, of course, if you live up in the colder climates in the winter, you're going to see all kinds of smoke coming out of your exhaust. But that's something different. When you burn gasoline, it's hydrogen and carbon in Earth's atmosphere of nitrogen and oxygen and various things. One of the byproducts is water vapor. Well, exhaust gas is hot, so you got hot water vapor. It's like steam, and when it gets cold outside, you'll often see a bunch of it coming out of your exhaust. Hey, you'll even see it coming out of your own exhaust, out of your mouth, because we humans breathe out water vapor that's a higher temperature than the outside. And I'm not a weatherman, but at a certain dew point when it gets colder, you're even going to see steam coming out of your mouth. So if you live in a cold northern climate, you're looking at a used car in the winter, you're going to have to take it into a heated garage to check that one out, because they're all going to be smoking. Now, any smoke's bad, but the worst is the white smoke, which is often a blowing head gasket, which can be tested, or burning oil, which will smoke white, or even a car that's using too much fuel and too much gasoline. It can make it smoke white if it's really leaking. It'd have to be horrendously leaking then. But if it's leaking too much, a little, and it's running rich, then you get black smoke coming out of the back. But you see any of that smoke, unless you're a mechanic like me and you can see an obvious problem, walk away from the car. Do not buy it. Don't listen to a seller saying, oh, you know, it burns a little bit of oil, yada, yada. Even if you're getting a car really cheap and they'll say, yeah, you know, the head gasket's blown, it needs a head gasket, because maybe it needs a head gasket, maybe it needs a whole engine. Could be the head's cracked too. You don't want to mess with something like that unless you're a mechanic and you're buying a car for $300, $400, $500 and you know you're going to put another engine in it anyways. For the normal person, you see smoke coming out of that tailpipe, run away from that car and look for another. There are plenty of cars out there that don't smoke that are for sale. Now, the next sign that's telling you not to buy this used car is a car that doesn't idle correctly. You're in drive, you're sitting there, and it's shaking too much. Because, theoretically, there can be dozens of different things that cause that. Something as simple as a vacuum line has come off, something as complex as the engine's just flat worn out and it's lost most of its compression and needs to be rebuilt for thousands and thousands of dollars. Don't ever listen to people that say, oh, it just idles like that because it needs a tune-up. You have no idea. Now, if you're a mechanic or mechanically inclined, let's say it's shaking, you open the hood and you see a vacuum line is falling off and you push the vacuum line back on and then it runs perfectly fine. Well, then go ahead and road test it. Maybe when you're done, pull the line back off and say, oh, I like the car, but you know, it doesn't idle right. I want to pay less for it. Maybe you'll get a better price for it that way. But unless you find something so obviously wrong that's simple to check, if a car isn't idling right, walk away from that too. There are just too many possible bad scenarios for a bad idling car. There's lots of them out there that idle fine. Go pick one of those instead of the one you're looking at. Now, the next sign that you should walk away from a used car is if upon startup you hear clacking noises or noises. It doesn't matter if they go away in a minute or two. If they make any noise like that, walk away. Engine should start up. The only thing you should hear is the starter spinning the engine. It should start up smooth. If they clack, there's something worn. And if they go, those are rods knocking because the crank bearings that the rods are bolted to are worn. And when the bearings are worn, the rods go, that's why it's called rods knocking. Once you start it up, if the oil pressure builds up, that oil will fill the gap on the rods on the bearings. The bearings are still worn. And one day, it'll go, and it will throw a rod, and that's the end of the engine. Now, that's a worst case scenario. But even ones that are ticking away, there's a problem. Say you got a modern car that's got hydraulic lifters. You start it up and it tick, 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 and after a minute or two it goes away. Generally means the lifters are worn. But some modern cars have 32 of these lifters. The money it costs to replace 32 hydraulic lifters is gigantic. You do not want to buy a car like that and waste your money. But let's say you're mechanically inclined like me. At least I hope I am. You hear weird noises on a used car and you got some time and a few tools, take the fan belts off. If the noise goes away, then you know it's something the fan belt drives, like an alternator or a water pump. In my own past, I bought cars like that, got them dirt cheap for like 500 bucks, because the owners, they thought the engines were going out, but it was actually a water pump or an alternator bearing. You take the fan belt off and the noise goes away, then you might think about buying the car. But if you're not mechanically inclined, you start it up, you hear any noises, walk away. If you're looking at a car like that, and you turn off and check the oil, and the oil's really low, and you say, oh, you pour some oil and the noise goes away. Yeah, it goes away then, but the damage has already been done. Years ago, I had a customer bring me a Toyota from a used car lot, and it was one of these quality checked used cars, guaranteed by the dealer. First thing I did was check the oil. It was down 1.5 quarts of oil. That means it burns oil. The damage has already been done. When the guy turned it back, he said, the dealer said, oh, we forgot to do the servicing in the car. Don't worry, we'll do the servicing. Customer explained to him, hey, Scotty says don't buy it. It doesn't matter if you change the oil now. The engine has already been worn. You change the oil now, hey, it's clean, but the damage has already been done. It's burning oil now. Situation of complete stupidity, because if they would have changed the oil and filter before they brought it to me, I wouldn't have noticed that the oil was low, because it wouldn't have been low and it would have been clean. So, you know, you're going to do checks like that when you're buying a used car anyways. And if you do find a used car and it's really low on oil, don't buy it. It's got a problem. Now, the next sign that you should walk away from a used car is take it for a drive. If it doesn't shift perfectly smooth in reverse and forward in the city and on the highway, walk away from it. There are just too many expensive repairs on modern transmissions when they don't shift right. You don't want to get involved in that. If you already own a car, yeah, then you got to figure, okay, am I going to put thousands into the transmission, or am I going to get rid of the car? You don't want to buy one that already has a transmission problem. And like I say, first, back it up. Reverse gear is often the first gear to go out in a car. If it clunks or it slips, or here's something I see all the time. You start up a cold engine, you put it in reverse, it doesn't go anywhere. Then you shift it to drive, it goes forward a little, then you shift it in reverse and then it backs up. That means the transmission's starting to go out. Do not buy that car. And like I said, when you're road testing it, drive in the city to see how it shifts from 0 to 30, up, down, and around, then take it on a highway. And if at all possible, find a nice hill or ramp that you can go higher speed and accelerate up. When transmissions start to go out, a lot of times at highway speeds, when they get a full load going up a hill, they'll start to show problems, and if it does, you walk away from it. And another good transmission test is, take it on a highway, put it on cruise control for 5-10 minutes. See how that works. If it starts getting herky-jerky on the cruise control, a lot of times that's a sign of the transmission starting to go out, then you just walk away. You don't even think about buying it. Now, the fifth and last sign that you shouldn't buy a particular used car has to do with the use of a scan tool. Get yourself a scan tool if you're serious about buying a used car. Because if you're going to save money buying a used car, even if you're going to have a mechanic check out the car, the mechanic's going to charge $100 or more to check the car out thoroughly. You can get good scan tools for a lot less than that for what you're going to be using them for. You can get a handheld one, you get one of these dongles that plugs in and you use your cell phone to read codes, but you want to have one because everything is computerized these days. And it doesn't matter if the car you're looking at, the check engine light isn't on. I've had lots of customers over the last 52 years bring me cars where the check engine light wasn't on. And as soon as I plugged in a scan tool, it had all kinds of codes. The previous seller had either pulled the bulb out for the check engine light so it didn't light up, or in the modern ones, they took the dash out, then they popped the little LED with an ice pick so it wouldn't light up anymore, and then put the dash back on. And since you can get a scan tool for as little as $20 used, a dongle one for anywhere from a good one from $60 to $180, or a handheld one, I've seen $60 ones that were perfectly good. You really want to have one of those when you're checking out a used car. Because if you have a used car that's going to fail, do you really want to take it to a mechanic and pay him $100? You can buy a scan tool for a lot less than that and do the first check. You don't want to have the mechanic checking out a bunch of clunkers. Maybe he won't care, he's making $100 a pop, but you're paying $100 a pop. You want to eliminate any of the crappers before you have your mechanic look at it. And there's nothing that can beat a scan tool. Of course, don't read any code problems that the car has. And if it has any, hey, don't buy the car. That's my advice. A lot of times, the guys will reset it so it won't have any codes yet. In that case, when you plug one of these in, you go to the OBD check. As you can see here, we'll scroll it down where we want to state OBD check. And we'll turn that on, and what does it say? Mill status is off, monitors are okay, monitors incomplete are 0. That means they're all completed and they're all okay. Now if you do that and you find that there's a bunch of readiness that aren't ready yet, to say not ready, that means that someone has recently reset the computer and there's probably something wrong with the car. Don't buy it then, because either there's a problem they're trying to hide, or if they didn't reset it, it means that it has a problem because it will not say that system is ready. I've seen cars that had not ready for 800 miles. That meant that particular part of the car had a problem. Now try as they may, if somebody's trying to cheat you with one of these, it's virtually impossible. If you plug in one of these machines and it says no communication with PCM, that's a power control module, don't buy the car. Because if it has a problem either in the computer, in the wiring, or any of the sensors, and you plug one of these in and it will not communicate with the car, that means it's got electrical problems that you don't want to get involved in, unless you're a mechanic like me. And even then, I'd shy away from a car like that because I'd have no idea what's wrong until I fix it. Could be as simple as crank sensor went out, it cost me $30 in parts. Could be as complex as it needs a new computer that could cost $2,000. So you hook one of these up and it says no communication. Walk, don't run away from that used car. Now, there are lots of good used cars out there. That's all I've ever bought my whole life. But there's a lot of bad ones too, so you want to do these 5 checks before you buy a car. I'm giving away a scan tool so somebody can check out a used car good. To have a chance to win, place a clean, non-offensive comment on the YouTube comments below to get a nice scan tool so they can check out a used car before they throw their money down. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.